Welcome to the Sunday paper. Do you believe in cash? Are you the type to hold cash, save cash, or pay for everything in cash? Well, America doesn't believe in cash. America believes in debt. Even the cash you hold and believe in is actually debt. I don't know who said it first, but two of my old friends once told me, he who understands interest makes it, and he who doesn't pays it. And do you know another word for interest? Debt. Just like shopping in a grocery store, interest is the sticker price you pay for the money you came in the store to buy. On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve announced the beginning of their cutting cycle by lowering the overnight interest rate to 5%. That means money is now 0.5% cheaper than it was over the last few months. Or in other words, the interest rate on loans are now lower than they have been since summer 2023. So now that we're in this cycle, remember these two things. When money is cheap, borrow it. And when money is expensive, loan it. But before you go out and start taking out loans, let's talk about what the Federal Reserve is actually doing and why. The Fed announced their first interest rate cut after 4 years of raising rates. The peak Fed funds rate was 5.5%, meaning banks were paying each other 5.5% to borrow money. Now they're paying 5%. This is the beginning of the cutting cycle, so rates are still high. But the Fed's plan is to take the funds rate all the way down to 3%, which is their target rate. Think of that like a neutral rate. No matter the current rate, whether 0% like in COVID or 5% like it has been, the goal under modern monetary policy is to always return to 3%. So now you're asking, why is the interest rate target goal 3%? Because the inflation rate target goal is 2%. So if we're paying 3% and we're growing 2%, we keep inflation from overheating and getting out of control like it was over the last few years. That's Jerome Powell, by the way, the current chairman of the Federal Reserve, appointed by President Donald Trump in 2018. The Federal Reserve dictates the path of the U.S. economy. You thought it was Congress, right? And their goal is to create growth in the U.S. at a rate of 2% a year through inflation, with increased gross domestic productivity, or GDP, measured by CPI, PPI, and PCE, which we've talked about previously. The Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell telegraphed their moves for the next 2 years at this previous meeting. They're taking the interest rate down by 1% by the end of this calendar year, so the Fed funds rate will be 4.5% by December 31st. After that, they're projecting to take out another 1% throughout 2025, meaning rates will be down to 3.5% by the end of 2025. Lastly, their plan is to take the rate down to 3% in 2026 in hopes of holding it there as economic conditions normalize. The two things that could change this plan is a spike in inflation and a spike in unemployment. All eyes will be watching CPI over the next 18 months to see if it goes over 3%, and also on unemployment to see if it goes over 5%. So the time to borrow money will be when the Fed funds rate is back at 3%. Remember, borrow money when the price of money is low. Until then, now is the time to lend money. Short duration treasury bonds are under their 5% high, but still over 4% for now. Good businesses With good chief financial officers will be able to grow as the cost of money goes down. Small businesses will be trying to refinance their debt as interest rates keep declining. Now, that doesn't mean it's a green light to invest in every company, but now is a good time to make a list of companies that you like based on their earnings, their debt, their free cash flow, and their cash holdings, and watch them over the next year to see how they handle this easing cycle. The good ones will grow their companies while reducing their debt sheets, and the bad ones, well, you'll know them when you see them.